Greetings all, and thanks for tuning in for this paranormal pit stop. Tonight, we'll be exploring a prominent 3x3 mile island located within Lake Michigan, around 16 miles west of Leland, Michigan, that acts as a portion of the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, and that's part of a chain of islands that extends north toward the Straits of Mackinac. Notably, on the island's southwestern corner, there lies a grouping of northern white cedars that stand amongst the oldest and largest not just in Michigan, not just in the US, but in the whole of the world, with its record holder estimated at around 500 years in age and measuring in at over 18 feet in circumference. Rumored to harbor a range of chilling supernatural infestations tied to its past, and to be roamed by the ghosts of those lost near. Are you sure you're ready to brave the history and hauntings of South Manitou Island? Historically, the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore derives its name from an ancient Ojibwe legend that tells of when a large fire swept the western shore of Lake Michigan, driving a mother bear and her two cubs into the water for protection. Determined to survive the catastrophe, Mother Bear swam with all of her strength to reach the opposite shore, but when she finally made land, she realized her cubs had fallen behind and were stuck in the middle of the waters. Distraught, Mother Bear made her way up to the top of the highest nearby bluff, where she waited, observing the wake for any sign of her kin. But sadly, the young cubs became exhausted and were claimed to the lake's depths. Regardless, Mother Bear would wait for days, hoping her children would re-emerge, and it's told that the Great Spirit was so impressed by this unrefined display of devotion through love that it created two islands, both North and South Manitou, to commemorate the family's fateful journey. Following this event, Mother Bear would continue to remain in her place, refusing to move, and over time and under winds and sands, she would be buried sleeping, where it's claimed she rests to this very day. In reality, a sleeping bear actually does exist, in the form of a small tree-covered knoll on the top of the edge of a bluff that, from the water, boasts a likeness to a snoozing ursine. However, sadly, wind and erosion have resulted in the bear being greatly reduced in size. And really, what can we do about that, other than trust that the Great Spirit might one day see fit to restore what it considered such a grand testament to earthly bonds and faith? Mid-1830s, one William Burton would arrive to South Manitou and would settle the lands in order to recover cordwood to fuel the grand steamships of the Great Lakes. In 1839, the area's first lighthouse was constructed, though other than the most rudimentary documentation, very little is known about this structure, and by 1847, a village had formed, and included Burton's Wharf, a house, a blacksmith shop, a barn, general store, and an extending tamarack track which allowed wood to be hauled between the dock and steamers. In 1858, and due to mounting safety concerns, the U.S. lighthouse establishment would replace the island's earlier light, complete with a fog signal outbuilding. Impressively, both of said structures still stand to this day. While farming of the island was a slow and tedious process, by 1870 most locals had become self-sufficient farmers, and around the same time, by 1871, increased shipping traffic would result in the construction of a 100-foot tower with a passageway connecting to the keeper's dwelling. Unfortunately, when logging of the island eventually ground to a halt, its dock would fall into disrepair, the island's size and significance would dwindle, and by the time rail and land travel had been efficientized, it was realized that farming alone as an economic driver for the island was just not enough, resulting in its longtime residents seeking their fortunes elsewhere. More recently, in 1970, Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore was established to preserve a 35-mile stretch of Lake Michigan's eastern coast, and today, while the island is uninhabited, it offers a range of remains of old farm buildings, a schoolhouse, cemetery, abandoned pieces of machinery, and a host of relics that act as reminders of its booming past. South Manitou is open to the public and can be accessed by way of ferry service out of Leland, and offers guided tours, open-air vehicles, and a mess of trails and campsites. Rather eerily, the whole of the Manitou Islands are surrounded by over 50 known shipwrecks, some of which that have since become popular dive sites. An unknown number of fatalities, some due to accidents, other to nature, and others still to more nefarious means, have transpired near. And within the wreck of the SS Francisco Morazan, it's told that a young boy even died while attempting a solo dive. Local legends tell its tumultuous past has resulted in countless restless spirits, and those braving the expanse have reported a range of inexplicable unexplainable phenomena, including disembodied voices that travel on the winds, footsteps heard from empty spaces, doors that slam within buildings no longer occupied, and instances of scuba divers describing unsettling cries and screams heard underwater near various wrecks. South Manitou boasts 2 separate cemeteries. Notably, in the cemetery identifiable by its cedar forest growth, a skeleton that was discovered on a South Manitou dune in 1933 was given a permanent home within, and it's told that the dead can be heard amongst the trees, while a skeletal figure, believed to be the restless soul of the unidentified bones, can sometimes be observed lurking about, seemingly searching for its rightful grave. A popular South Manitou fable details an incident in which a ship full of cholera-stricken passengers made a pit stop on the island for rest, and it's said that when their condition didn't improve, that the sailors buried the whole lot, some still alive, in a mass grave believed to be located near the old cemetery just north of Bay Campground, right where the old dock was formerly located. Now, many tell of disturbing screams and cries that emanate from deep below the earth, and of run-ins with both shadowy figures that stalk the living and with a host of full-bodied apparitions in period clothing, some who look nearly ghoulish in their ailment. A second South Manitou tale tells of a woman that lived on the island long ago, who was either engaged or married to a man she loved deeply, who left for the mainland one day and never returned. After years of waiting and watching the horizon for his return and taking countless nightly strolls along the beach, this woman grew old, and it's said that when she finally passed, she did so with hope still in her heart that her love would one day soon return. Following her passing, locals began reporting sightings of the woman's ethereal silhouette waiting at the docks and pacing the beach just as she had done in life. And to date, encounters with this wandering widow, who carries with her a faintly glowing lantern, continue to sprout up from guides, officials, tourists, and campers alike. A third and final famous Manitou story intertwines with actual history to tell of lightkeeper Aaron Sheridan, of his wife Julia, and of their infant son, and of how in 1878 the trio attempted to skip the pond to the mainland, only for their boat to capsize in heavy seas, and for them all to be claimed by the cold dark deep of the lake. Now, it's claimed the family's spirits remain at the South Manitou Lighthouse, where those visiting report disembodied voices, footsteps, and even inexplicable wet prints on the floors. Now, before we close up, we always get a few comments questioning the validity of the stories we cover, which, if we're being honest, we often question ourselves. And we really only consider places or stories appropriate for coverage when we can locate multiple unrelated accounts of similar supernatural encounters at a site, or better. Well, as a cherry on top of the literal thousands of unrelated reports we were able to uncover surrounding South Manitou, some of which even involved police interventions or investigations, it's documented that a ranger stationed on the island actually had a mental breakdown, brandished a firearm, and demanded to be taken to the mainland. Why, you might ask? Literally because of the area's rampant paranormal activity driving him crazy. While we may never know exactly what was discussed or witnessed between this man and his superiors, whatever was transpiring on the island warranted the Coast Guard flying the ranger out by helicopter that very night, and strangely, the house he'd been staying in was literally saturated in reports of paranormal happenings. Pretty spooky, if you ask us. Thanks for joining us on this Paranormal Pit Stop. If you enjoyed our histories and ghost stories, subscribe to our channel, like this upload, and share us with anyone you feel deserves a good scare. We'll catch you all next time.